good evening or good morning if you're watching this 12 hours later or in a different time zone altogether. It's the American Scouser TV EPL panel show with some of the best fans and most knowledgeable soccer people in the land, and me, fresh from the hospital bed with a broken rib. We're joined by Glenn and Jay this week. How are we, gentlemen?
Great. Buzzing.
Now, we were just discussing before we went on there, I'm actually going to change a little bit of the show tonight because we don't have the people to talk about the things. I think talking about your two managers will be actually what we'll do. But here is what we had planned. We're going to look at the game weeks from last weekend and today, the games that happened today. Some interesting games there. We'll ignore telling it like it is and spurs of the moment as much as those puns are nice. And we'll talk about the two managers because they're doing a fantastic jobs, and certainly maybe even touch on what Michael Carrick is doing at Manchester United. Then we look forward to the tomorrow games, our Tonali picks, and then it is FA Cup weekend, so we don't have much to look forward to. Well, I don't as a Liverpool fan because we're probably going to get beat by Brighton. We'll see how that works out for us. But Mighty Red is right back because apparently Calvin Ramsey is never getting a game if he paid money to do it. But that's for Thursday night. So let's have a look at the weekend just gone by, boys. Leeds 3, Nottingham Forest 1. Spurs and United, as we said, Carrick doing a relatively decent job. As some pundits are saying, it clearly was all about the manager before Ruben Amorim left. Arsenal trashing Sunderland, but to be expected. Bournemouth Villa with a draw. Burnley, West Ham seem to be having a little bit of a revival, which we'll look at. Fulham and Everton, an Everton away win. And then here's what we're going to talk about: Wolves and Chelsea. If I remember correctly, I think I watched the second half of that game because I'm on medications, so I can't remember what I'm doing from day to day sometimes. I mean, there's a more. Do you think, Jay? Tell us about the game first, but. Do you think there's a more kind of certainty to the performances under Rossini than there was under Maresca? There's not as much kind of vagueness to the tactics. Like he wants to play a certain way and a definite way, and he's doing that. Cole Palmer looks like he might be coming back into a little bit of form. And I was listening to the Leeds game today, which we'll get to. But like, tell us about the game, but also, do you think Rossini's having a kind of impact maybe on the consistency of ideas to sound very fancy of how this Chelsea plays versus how it did under Maresca?
I think our ideas are somewhat similar, right? You've got the same group of players. We're playing similar formations. Our play isn't that different. I think where Rossini has been breath of fresh air has been in his ability to change the game. Chelsea is still rather inconsistent. We will play shit halves of football, as you saw in the second half when we took our foot off the gas against Wolves. But he's not afraid to adapt, bring subs on. Maresca was always a bit afraid to do that. And whether it was medical team not allowing him to put certain players on or whatever we're hearing through the grapevine, but he's not afraid to make 3 or 4 subs early on, completely change the formation, personnel, both, and mix things up if tactically or from personnel we're underperforming. And typically, if we're playing badly or we concede an early goal, we really struggle to break teams down. This ability and willingness to change tactics rather than being really rigid towards a system, I think, has been really beneficial, and it's one of the reasons we're on a run. I mean, today we managed to gift Leeds a point out of charity, to be honest, and Cole Palmer missed a sitter. But against Leeds, first 30 minutes we were incredible. Thank you to against Wolves, their centre backs for 2 of the most blatant penalties you'll see, and just manager's got to be pulling his hair out. What the hell are you doing? Like 2 hands push to Cole Palmer to convert a couple penalties and one from open play. But yeah, I think we've been solid. Honestly, we've had a really easy run of fixtures as well. I'll say, like, it's been fortuitous. We haven't been in the league, at least. We've not been playing Arsenal, City, Liverpool, Man United. We have been up against some of the lesser mid-table and lower table teams. which has allowed him an opportunity to get his feet under him, which probably means it's good timing from the ownership group to change managers, allowing him to bed his ideas. But yeah, I think I'm optimistic. He is well underqualified for a job like Chelsea, but he's doing pretty well. Like we have results on the board. We've turned it around. We are well in with the Champions League fight, with Villa dropping like a stone. We're looking like contenders for one of those positions. And at Christmas time, that was really the best that we could hope for. Some tactical some tactical mistakes I think that he's made. But ultimately, who doesn't? Especially when you're up against teams like Arsenal, who, while not a fantastic outfit, are by far and away the best this season has to offer. I think we're doing fine. I think it'll be interesting to see in the league how we do against some of the more stern opposition. That's not going to be Burnley, who we're playing next, but we'll see. You're on mute, Micah.
I am. See, the drugs do work. The Verve were completely wrong about that, lying bastards. Not the Premier League, but the Scottish League. With we saw with Celtic making that change to Wilfred Nancy, and having a complete disaster, like losing the cup final against St. Mirren. His ideas not translating in any way, shape, or form, and getting a hell of a lot of resistance from the Celtic players who were used to, high-level coaching, if not high-level personnel management from Brendan Rodgers, and the opposite way from Martin O'Neill, who's an excellent man manager, if not necessarily tactically the best. But Rosenior's gone in, as you say, maybe a perception of him not being qualified to take on Chelsea, but then maybe Graham Potter wasn't qualified. Avram Grant certainly wasn't. So Chelsea aren't afraid to make those kind of out of left field appointments. Yeah. But he's
a good coach. Like he's like a very good coach. He had a good track record at Derby with Rooney. Like Hull, and it seemed like it ended poorly, but got some experience there and genuinely did well at Strasbourg. Obviously, Liga is not the Premier League, and Chelsea is not Strasbourg. But I think the fact that Chelsea's a young team probably helps a young manager come in. You can better relate to them, and you haven't got. I mean, yes, Enzo Fernandez, World Cup winner. You've got some star quality in the Chelsea team, but we're not a two-time Premier League winning, Champions League winning side that suddenly got this new guy. Okay, what do you got? Like we were underperforming and needed a little bit of direction, hands-on. And I mean, his ideas are taking root. We'll see where it takes him. Maybe he's not there for his entire contract. I wouldn't be surprised, right? But I think good start, and we'll see where we finish up. I think Champions League qualifications is the bar for him this season.
I mean, it does.
Maybe then we'll get a shirt sponsor. Who knows?
But it does look like, as you say, he has a reputation of being an excellent field coach, as I like to say, who's great on the training ground. Those coaches, like we see so often, those first team coaches go into management and fail. Like Pep Linders did the same when he went to Holland as a manager. They're just excellent on the field, and that's such an important thing to win a group of players over, isn't it? Is to have a clarity of vision, be interesting on they're used to doing the same 20 million drills over and over and over again. So if a young coach comes in with a few different ideas, they're gonna okay, let's give this guy a chance. And it seems like that's what's happened at Chelsea, doesn't it?
Doesn't have to be young either, though, right? Like Steve Holland's coming at Man United with Carrick. Steve Holland's incredibly seasoned coach.
He's only 27. He just looks that old.
Yeah.
That's because he's the stress of being at Man United. But yeah, I mean, like in terms of Steve Holland's an excellent coach. He always has been. But it's not, let's say, Neil Warnock coming in and let's go down to the beach and run up and down the sand dunes for 20 quid and a pint of beer. It's good that he's able to get that response from the Chelsea players fairly early on, and it bodes well for you guys and not so much for Liverpool if we want to have any hope of getting into those Champions League places. Now let's go to this next. I actually watched this game. It was highly enjoyable. But it was a good, I posted on our Discord channel, it was a good old-fashioned football game. Eddie Howe, he needs results. Keith Andrews is getting results. We're in the, just like last season, in the mutual Thomas Frank fan club, in the mutual Keith Andrews fan club. But talk me through that game, Glenn, because that's kind of a game you would expect if you were just to look on paper at club size, reputation, resources, bench, players that you lost at the start of the season. You look at that an away game at Newcastle, and you go, do you know what? If we don't get beat by 2-0, we're doing okay here. But there was not a point in that game where you didn't think Brentford could get something, was there?
It was a great watch, wasn't it, Mac? I'm really glad you enjoyed it as much as I did. And when you look at the resources, as you said, obviously Newcastle bought Johan Visser off us in the summer. And that, he was booed all game. He was injured for the reverse fixture, so it was quite fun to see him playing against us. And it was even more fun to see Jan out knock his effort off the line, which devastated him. And, Newcastle do have a couple of injuries and stuff, like we know that. But you look at the team, Pope, Trippier. I mean, Bruno Guimaraes, I think, is one of the best players in the Premier League. I'd put him a top 5 player in the division. Tonali is a great player, and that front line can hurt you. And it was the environment itself, right, Macca? As you said, it's one of the hardest places to go in the league. We haven't won there since the 1930s. And we went there after winning at Villa Park for the first ever time in our history. So under Keith Andrews, we are genuinely making history, which is so fantastic and quite surreal, I think, for his first season in charge as a full manager in the Premier League or of any other club for that matter. So, yeah, and as you probably noticed watching it, right, Macca, we just looked so positive. Sharda was suspended after a silly red card, so Keane Lewis Potter came in. I thought he was really, really bright. But the standout player, I think, across both teams was Dango Ouattara. I mean, he's just come back from AFCON. Great timing with the Sharda suspension. That's a kind of, like-for-like position that he can fill. He was just sensational, wasn't he? He put in the cross for the Jan out goal. He was just all over the place. He obviously scored the winner. And yeah, to be honest, Macca, it was our attitude that impressed me most of all, right? We were full of energy. I would ask anyone watching to find a harder working forward than Thiago for us. Yes, he scored, which is great, the penalty, a very nicely taken penalty. But when Thiago is playing, you get the sense that, yeah, of course he wants to score, but he's just somebody who wants to be involved, right? He will run, he will press, he will put his body about. And he is probably one of the most selfless forwards I have seen at Brentford in many, many years. He is just... There is not a selfish bone in his body. It's all about the team. So if he has to stand up front for 90 minutes and run around with no service, he'll do it. But if it's a game like this and he can get some service and he can put himself around and pick up a penalty goal, he'll do that too. But yeah, we were exceptional. And as you said, Macca, you look at this fixture and yeah, if it's not a heavy defeat, you're like, well, it's a challenging place to go. But our attitude, our approach, our execution, because when Newcastle equalized, you were watching it same as me, right? You think the momentum's about to shift, right? And for us to sucker punch them with that goal on the counter, which literally made Eddie Howe so upset, the manner in which they conceded that, he was just absolutely devastated by, because you're thinking as a Newcastle fan or manager, this is the moment. Yeah, we may be a little bit lucky to be on level terms here. Brentford have been good, but we're the home team. We're the big team. We're Newcastle, right? We need to beat Brentford at home. And for us to counter in that way, the silence in the stadium after that goal. And after we scored that goal, Macca, I never felt there was the belief. It was at 7-8 minutes of added time. I never felt Newcastle had the belief. So kudos to them for going to White Hart Lane, which we'll talk about later, and getting a result. Kudos to them, because Eddie Howe's picked them up. But that's one of the best results we've had in the Premier League. And I said the same last week against Villa. These are two of the best results we have had in 4.5 years in the Premier League. And they've come under Keith Andrews.
Now, when I messaged, when I did put that comment on the Discord channel, good old fashioned football, it was, I think one of the goals was a direct long kick from Kelleher, wasn't it? Down the line, and then the goal comes from there. And that's what I noticed. Andrew seems to be one of the few coaches who's now dispensing with playing out from the back in every occasion, is pushing Brentford up, getting them compact around the halfway line, and having Kelleher punt the ball old school into the area, which kind of keeps the other team guessing, isn't it? I mean, like, he's, for somebody that, certainly as an outsider, I wasn't I wasn't sure how he would make it, if he would make it as a first team manager, but he seems brimful of ideas, doesn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. He's creative, and he's and he's willing to play in different ways. I think that's what's really setting him apart as a manager right now. I think, we've had so many systems managers, your Amarims, your Anges, we've got a couple more in the division. And he's just flexible, and he's just willing to, be creative where's needed. And it's great that you can go long, right, Maka, if you have a forward like Thiago with you. You really can go forward and play out from the back.
You play to your team's strengths, right? If you have an advantage there, you use it. It seems to be serving
that's the point, though, isn't it? Is that there's a lot of, as Glenn said, there's a lot of managers who won't do that. They'll just insist on doing what's in their coaching manual or their coaching Bible. I think Mourinho was the one that started that to an extent, not intentionally, but he had his coaching Bible with his 37 drills and the different situations, and then everybody copied that. But that's what it's good to see, isn't it, Glenn? It's good to see somebody who's not married to, we're doing X, Y, and Z regardless of what's happening on the field. But a coach who'll go, well, you know what? They're dropping off so we can play out from the back, or they're pressing up. So what the hell are we doing? Get it down the field.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And, again, we're missing Sharda, one of our main players. He's Keane Lewis Potter slots in there pretty effortlessly. We've had Collins, who's been not playing. One of our key players has been benched for, it was an injury, a light injury, but he's I think he's just Van den Berg and I have done great.
Is being ginger an injury? It's a gingery. That's what it is.
Well, I wouldn't say that to his face. He's too big. He's too big a guy for me to say that to directly. That's for sure. But yeah, honestly, we're just playing really good football, right? And as I've said before in the show, Maga, we have strength and depth, right? Yarmouk off the bench, one of our brightest young players. Damsgaard, our player of the season last year for me, he's off the bench. Ramel Donovan, who I think is going to be a superstar. If you watched him, Maka, he's like teenager. He gives me Jack Grealish, Alex Scott vibes. He's just willing to win free kicks, take on players. It's fantastic. So yeah, we've got depth on the bench, right? And we've got players like Aaron Hickey, Ethan Pinnock, Reece Nelson, Nathan Collins, not even coming off the bench, right? Mm-hmm. That shows we have a really strong foundation to really do really well this season.
And as I said, it was an enjoyable game, and that's, I would say if out of every game this weekend, if I wanted to show an alien from another planet what good soccer is like, what a good soccer game is like, that's the game I would show them. But I'd also show them the Liverpool game to show them how crap the refs are.
Well, what you do, you show the Brentford game and then the last 20 minutes of the Liverpool game, and that
there
is
you go.
Entertaining.
Let's look at the other Brighton and Hove Albion 1-0 Crystal Palace. Now, I'm not going to talk about the tactics and all that stuff of the Liverpool-Manchester City game. We talked about this before we went on air, me and Jay, but I just want to get your lads' opinions on that. There used to be a thing called Law 18. There's 17 laws of the game. They're fairly simple. That's why it's the most popular game in the world. But Law 18 was always, the referee should always apply common sense. Glenn, we'll get Jay's opinion as well, but I want to get your opinion first on what did you see what happened with that goal, and what did you think of it?
Yeah, I did see what happened. It was a great debate, isn't it, Maka? And there's so many layers to it. I think it's absolutely fascinating. And honestly, what a unbelievable second half of football we had. First half, quite forgettable. Second half, I appreciate from a Liverpool perspective, it was forgettable. But as a neutral, I thought it was wonderful. Because for me as a neutral, I'd prefer Liverpool to win the league than City, but I also don't want Arsenal to run away with it. So I'm like, all right, pick up some points, City, make a race of it. You know what I mean? But regardless, yeah, you do get, you'll know this better than me, Maka. But yeah, you get a clash here between common sense and going by the letter of the law, arguably, right? I personally couldn't quite fathom how where playing the advantage was lost in this, right? A foul is committed. Absolutely. He's pulling him back. If the ball didn't end up in the net, that would be a red card. That's
exactly it. That's the good way of putting it. If the ball had just went past the post, mate, then you call it back, red card.
Because you're stopping Haaland from tapping it in, and we know that, right? I just didn't The referee didn't blow his whistle. Again, that would be another reason. If the referee blew his whistle before the ball rolled in, absolutely. Hands are tied. What can you do? But the fact that didn't happen, it confused everyone. It made what would have been a really simple and honestly quite satisfying for the neutral end to the game, this huge, miserable VAR intervention that honestly screwed over both teams, which I thought was remarkable, right? This is the incredible reality of it. You end up screwing over Turkey, Man City. Who knows? With that one goal difference, will that make a difference in May? And obviously for you guys, poor Szoboszlai, who goes from hero to zero with one of the best free kicks I've seen in my 29 years on Earth. That was unbelievable. To watch that go in live was just such a moment of joy, of euphoria. It was insanely good. But yeah, I mean, when all's said and done, Szoboszlai shouldn't be pulling Haaland back, right? He shouldn't be doing that. It's honestly quite naive to be doing that. But he pulls him back. Sure, it's a foul, but the ball's gone in. So it's a goal for City. You kick off, blow the whistle. It's 3-1. Not everyone's happy. Liverpool aren't happy, but that's a satisfying conclusion.
Yeah,
I don't understand why it became this complicated mess. But per the letter of the law, Mac, was it a correct decision or not? This is the discussion I've been hearing, since my understanding of the game. It wasn't, because it's an advantage, but I don't know. I guess I couldn't understand the case for the red card, for the disallowing the goal. That's what kind of perplexed me. But some people were saying it is the correct decision.
I mean, that's we discussed me and Jay, and I'll get Jay's opinion on it again. It's hardly the denial of a goal scoring opportunity when the ball is hitting the back of the net. Give the goal, give a yellow for the foul, maybe a yellow each because they were both at it. But that's like the game is about goals, isn't it, Jay? It's a rare score event sport. It's not, we're not looking at like the Super Bowl with 28-16 on the scoreboard at the end or whatever it was on the Super Bowl. It's the average score is 1-1 or 1-0. It depends what league you're in, but it's not a high scoring game. So why take the goals off when nobody benefits from that at all whatsoever?
I mean, it's almost as if the guy, I forget who was manning the VAR, but it's almost as if he had Haaland as triple captain in fantasy and getting pulled back just robbed him of a few points. But you're absolutely right.
There was a screenshot of the VAR refs, and one of them was playing Championship Manager on it, or football manager, whatever it is.
I mean, I think it also makes it. I mean, it shouldn't do really, but the common sense element, it makes a difference that it's the last kick of the game, right? Like, it's the last kick of the game. Like, Szoboszlai, Liverpool's not going to equalize. Let that go.
Yeah.
But the fact the ball's gone in the net, like, let's just move on, go home. I fail to see where the advantage. When VAR gets involved, I struggle to understand why, right? Because they either bring it back because it's a foul on, I guess Haaland commits a foul, and then if they're looking at the first foul, you have to look at the second foul. You just almost wish, like in American football, fouls offset, and you'd like to think that VAR, the mantra is, was it a clear and obvious error? Like, the fact that so many people are questioning whether or not it was an error would suggest that it wasn't clear or obvious, and the fact it's the last minute of the game would also make me think, come on, let's just everyone go home, 3-1, whatever. Because like you say, Glenn, you've managed to screw over both teams, because that goal could be important to City, might not be, could be. And Szoboszlai has been Liverpool's best player by a country mile all season, and now they have to play without him for 3 games.
And I agree. And the only slightly compelling case I heard in this kind of discussion afterwards was, if Szoboszlai was meant to be sent off for it, if per the letter of the law, which we still think is up in the air, but if they have agreed that is the correct decision instead of maybe the moral one or whatever else, right, the entertainment one, whatever it is, the only disadvantage people get if Szoboszlai isn't sent off and the goal stands will be the teams that play Liverpool in the next 3 games, right? They would have to face him when otherwise they wouldn't, if the correct decision was to send him off, right? And I thought that was an interesting perspective I at least hadn't considered, right? If we're thinking about who these things affect. Liverpool are going to be weaker without Szoboszlai when you guys play your next couple of games, And that does have a material impact on the opposition, right? So if it was the correct decision to send him off, then that's an outcome, right? That's an outcome of it that's real. But I think you're totally right. I don't understand why VAR is getting involved if it's not a clear and obvious error, because it's not. And B, it just feels wrong. It just is, as you both kind of said, like it's a sport of goals. We don't want red cards. We want goals, right? Nobody wants players to be sent off. But again, fundamentally, there is something to be said for, like, there was a lot of naivety shown by Szoboszlai if you're going to quite literally and obviously pull back a player who is about to tap a ball into an empty net. Because let's keep in mind, we didn't know the ball was going to. I didn't think. I
was hoping it was going to stop just before the line.
Right. And then they were going to wrestle each other like a comical, like
John Terry had it over the line,
like a total wipeout kind of, just mess. But that's the point, right? It was naive and honestly quite silly of Szoboszlai to be doing that, and it makes sense. There's repercussion for that, but the whole thing just felt wrong, and I think it's hard to kind of unify fans in a way to kind of like vast majority, critical mass of people are like, yeah, why is this not standing? Why is he sent off? But it's a hell of a talking point. It was one of the most animated talking points I've seen in the game for a couple of weeks.
Let me ask you this,
to give our opinion, but it makes me sorry to interrupt you. It makes me question, like, should I be more knowledgeable about the rules? Because watching Chelsea today as well, like, apparently I don't know what a handball is either. So like I'm just adding to the things that I don't.
But let me ask you this though, like that's actually a good point you make, Glenn. And if the ball had, let's say it's a muddy field, it was a pristine field, but let's say it was a muddy field and the ball does stop on the line, then yes, that's now a denial of a goal scoring opportunity because Haaland has no chance to get to that ball to tap it in. The naivety is that Szoboszlai should have been running towards the ball to try and nick it off the line, like in a heroic gesture, rather than stopping Haaland, who, to be fair, is powerful and fast. But that, that's what I'm saying. Like no Liverpool fan would have sat there and went, you should chalk that goal off. We all kind of accepted we were dreadful for large parts of that game and were saved by and we were saying to Jay beforehand. If that shot they have from behind the goal, and you can see the swerve of that ball, that's the Roberto Carlos miss of that goal. But no Liverpool fan would have went, you should call that goal back because 2-1 is better than 3-1. It was just, okay, we haven't earned it today. That was a nice shot from Cherky from the halfway line or wherever it was, or just before the halfway line. We got to do better next time. Let's all call for Slot to be sacked. But the ball went in the net. My question is, it's supposed to be a player's game. It's not supposed to be a coach's game where we get too much of the, like, as we said, like systems managers, coaches imposing their view on what players should do and players not playing freely, which is, again, something I admire Keith Andrews for, because he's not telling the players what to do all the time. You can see them reacting to the situations. And it's definitely not supposed to be a referee's game. They're supposed to be invisible. Like, I'm old enough to remember when you couldn't remember who the referee was, and he was almost always a teacher in from Widenshaw or somewhere like that. You know what I mean? Here's Sam Taylor. He's a baker from what you call hitting the hole. Do you know what I mean? Like, the referee wasn't a part of the game, but this makes the referees part of the game now, doesn't it?
Well, and VAR magnifies that, right? This is the problem when we have a technology that puts a spotlight on referees who aren't even on the field of play. So what you just said, Macca, I agree. And now we're adding a couple of basic virtual referees to the fray as well, whose opinions are always going to be subjective. And this is why we love this sport so much, right? It's always subjective. And I think my favorite part of the whole thing, which got basically forgotten about, was, if I remember right, Man City got a free kick, right? Because of this foul and sending off. I thought the thing you do, you just pass it backwards, right? See off the clock for 15 seconds or whatever. Cherky goes, just hits the ball as hard as he can. And I don't think I picked up much afterwards. It made me the ignorance of doing that just added to this drama. Like, it wouldn't have surprised me, Macca, if you guys had spent the last 8 seconds of the game with an NFL style Hail Mary and Ekatike or whoever does nod one in, right? That would have been the most fitting end to the game if possible. But I agree with you that, referees are center stage. Is it because there's more attention on the league writ large? Is it because, with social media and whatever, we have forums to criticize and identify referees in ways we didn't before, right? But also, I do think you're right that, yeah, referees should just be blending into the background. But honestly, in a sport that is so opinionated, that is so subjective in the 21st century, maybe it's impossible because you're kind of assuming an impossible level of not perfection, but an impossible level of high quality refereeing, which is clearly unmanageable. We haven't found that yet because I struggle to name 2 or 3 good. I know the names of 10 referees. I'd struggle to name 2 or 3 ones I'd like to referee a Brentford match, right? They're just these polarizing figures that honestly, for me, have more of like a narrative role for the game, right? Building these stories, creating these talking points, right? They're almost like a part of the game onto themselves now, right? It's referees and their role in the modern game. It's good for the game if you make money from the game because it means people like us are sat here spending 20 minutes on a Tuesday night talking about referees, right?
Well, now they get to talk now, don't they? With their microphones, like NFL referees.
Exactly.
But just to kind of throw an extension on that, like whereas like the center referee for sure will have some attention on because they're in the middle of the television screen, they're in the middle of the production, so to speak. VAR really shouldn't be the center of attention, should it? That the whole selling point of VAR before it came along was that if there's a mistake, these lads will come in and say, you made a mistake. But they're increasingly becoming the actual arbiters of the game, really, aren't they? The referees are almost secondary. The field referee, the center ref.
How long before VAR becomes AI? 2 years? 3?
Probably, yeah. I mean, look, the offside is practically nearly that.
Yeah.
FIFA have their way. I mean,
the only Arsene Wenger, though, right?
I mean, here's the thing, just kind of like, because we don't get to talk about this on the Liverpool one. I like that idea simply because the idea behind offside in the first place was to stop cherry picking, was to stop the post. Yeah. So daylight makes like logical sense to the intention and the spirit of the offside law. The measuring by millimeters is against the spirit of the game as far as I'm concerned, because it's cheating us out of like goals by margins that are not affecting the play. But I think you're right. I think that we're going to get ChatGPT as the VAR ref, and or worse still, ChatGPT. Its database only goes up like 2024 or something like that, so it'll still be stuck in the rules from then before the last change, and we'll be getting goalkeepers are allowed to pick up the ball all of a sudden. Like
maybe they'll say you are the VAR today. Pretend you are Mike Dean, and tomorrow you have to be Phil Dowd.
But never, ever, ever be Howard Webb. Let's move on then to the games that happened today. No game for Brentford. You guys are playing tomorrow, I think.
We are playing Thursday.
Thursday, that's right, against Arsenal. We'll get to that one.
Yeah.
Big game.
Chelsea leads 2-2, and as I think you said, it was a thrown away lead. But Leeds are starting to get ahead of steam for themselves. But is that points dropped for Chelsea, Jay?
Oh yeah, we were 2-0 up, cruising 1-0 up at halftime, cruising 2-0 up from a Palmer penalty. This a carbon copy of the Wolves penalty. Pedro running away from goal and got a shove in the back, clear penalty. What is the defender doing? And then they score very quickly afterwards. There is a scramble in the box where our players bump into each other, ball fall while trying to leave the ball for the goalkeeper. Ashimpong and Sanchez not on the same wavelength. Sanchez bundles into the attacker, ball rebounds around and lands in front of Okafor, who taps it in. Nearly rescued it with Palm. We were all over them for the last 10 minutes. I think it was Caicedo with a cross to Palmer. He's probably 2 yards out, open goal, ball probably knee height, and tries to just tap it in and pulls his absolute best Victor Gyökeres impression and over the bar. Everyone, I think that was terrible. But in hindsight, what I think actually happened is we probably saw that Spurs actually could go down, and any points you can give to teams around them will make that more likely. So we handed a point to Leeds.
So yeah, win-win for Chelsea fans then.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite frightening if you actually look at the bottom of the league, how close they are to being drawn in. West Ham nearly beat United today. I think Sesko scored in the 96th minute to equalise, and I forget his name, but the guy was kind of going to cut his hair, has to wait another 5 games because this was the 5th game. So yeah, no streak for United, but West Ham and Forest appeared to be doing okay, and Spurs dropping like a stone. They're probably 3 weeks away from being right in that relegation battle.
Now, Glenn, on Spurs, with Thomas Frank there, it's easy to damn him for having these Spurs performances, but Ange Postecoglou was in this exact same situation, this exact same time last year, and his reputation was, I think, rightfully somewhat saved by his European success. But nevertheless, pretty much the same group of players were there here in this position, fighting relegation, or sorry, not fighting relegation, but being in a position where they could get dragged into that relegation scrap, along with United at this time last year. Does that suggest to you, knowing full well how well Thomas Frank can work, that maybe the problem is the players at Spurs? Maybe the quality is not as good as they think the quality is.
Yeah, I'd agree, Mike. I've said this before on the show. You look at this Spurs starting 11, and I'm like, which of them would I start in the current Brentford team against Arsenal, right, on Thursday? Maybe Van der Ven, right? Nobody else from that starting 11. And that's not said with any bias or any kind of hatred for Spurs or Frank. I'd love to see him do well there. There's not a single player in that starting 11 I would, apart from Van der Ven, I would start straight on Thursday. And that says it all, doesn't it? It's just the most bang average squad of players. Romero just symbolizes just the collapse of discipline, collapse of common sense, collapse in communication. He is this just walking magnet for controversy, and he speaks his mind. And I think there was truth to what he said, but it wasn't appropriate in the way he said it. It just it's just not a good look for your club captain to be blasting your club on social media. It looks immature. He follows that up with the red card, which, if anything, epitomizes Thomas Frank's tenure in the Premier League at Spurs. It's that brainless red card from Romero, right? If he's meant to be your leader and he's meant to set an example to the players, to the manager, to the fans, to the ownership, and this is how he behaves, you're really building on quicksand, aren't you? I mean, there's just nowhere you're going to turn. And yeah, you look at this team, there's just a complete lack of quality. There's a lack of cohesion. There's a lack of identity. No one will be able to describe Thomas Frank's style at Spurs. At Brentford, yeah, sure, we're counter-attacking, we absorb pressure, we're the underdogs, we have a different approach, we have different players. I've watched a fair bit of Thomas Frank's Spurs, and I have no idea what their identity is. It's dour football, it's regressive football, it's unentertaining, and Arsenal can get away with playing sometimes unentertaining football because they're top of the league and they're going to win the league, right? They can get away with the odd 1-0, 2-0, grind it out, and they play fine football, right? It's just not entertaining. You can say the same for Pep at times in the Premier League. But Thomas Frank, when you're playing that quality of football with this set of like really, really poorly motivated, poorly managed, players with really poor attitudes throughout the squad, you're really on a kind of hiding to nothing. And he's not going to be able to last to the end of the season. They're not going to win the Champions League. They're not going to get to the semi-finals of the Champions League. So is it a case, Mac, or if we just say, well, when he gets knocked out of the Champions League, he leaves his position? This is, as you said, it's Ange 2.0. You just cannot be Tottenham Hotspur and be genuinely, tangibly in a bit of a relegation battle. It's shameful, right? You look at the amount of teams that are above them right now that have, in theory, with budgets and brands and infrastructure, have no right to be above them, except the great equalizer being the football you play for 90 minutes every week, which is why we follow this league, or it would be really boring. Spurs fans are fed up. I think Frank inherited a poison chalice. I think it was the wrong club for him to pick. And I think probably the sooner he gets out of there, the better, because it's not going to work. The fans despise him. And like the quality of the football maker is abysmal. It's abysmal.
Now, I know you're brimming with happiness, Jay, at the possibility that Spurs end up in the championship next season. That'd be almost as good as winning a trophy, I'm sure. Same way it would be for us with Liverpool fans, with Everton getting relegated, which will never happen. They are the unflushable third. But Chelsea were in that position once before Abramovich came along, weren't they? Where like player power almost was holding Chelsea back, the potential of Chelsea back. You had some good teams of collections of good players, but it wasn't. I want to say it wasn't until Vialli came along, almost like Ruud Gullit maybe kind of set the wheels in motion, but it wasn't until Vialli came along that it kind of started to come together. But Spurs are in that kind of space now, aren't they? Where Thomas Frank is a good coach, but maybe they need an old school like Vialli. God rest his soul, he was a hard bastard. He looked like an angel, but he could handle himself in a fight. We saw that week after week in Italy in Serie A, but he wasn't taking any crap from anyone. And maybe that Spurs team right now needs somebody like that. Do you think?
Are we thinking who are we thinking? Like a Nigel Pearson type?
Yeah, no, I'm deadly serious. Like somebody like Nigel Pearson who's just gonna strangle somebody if they don't get.
It wasn't long ago that Spurs and Man United were like neck and neck in the same position in the league, and now Spurs are in 16th and United are in 4th.
Yeah,
like the league was that tight that they've been able to separate themselves. United made the right call getting rid of Amorim, and had Tottenham done the same thing, maybe they'd be in a similar situation. Probably not, but I think you're right. But it's always who comes in. Yeah. But also for Tottenham, like how many seasons in a row of being between 14th and 17th until that becomes where your norm is, right? If it's the same next season, then that's just their level. Like regardless of level until you prove it's not, that is your level. And that's what Man United have had to come to terms with over the past decade, really. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see, certainly. Will they go down? Probably not, but you're probably going to see West Ham or Tottenham go down. But West Ham have turned a corner, it would seem. And I mean, their last 5 games, they're 3 wins and a draw. But yeah,
I think just for Mr. Bob Clips, we are guys. There's no need for the question mark there, and welcome to the channel. Let's just have a quick look at the table, and then we'll go on to talking about both of your various managers. Top of the table, obviously Arsenal. They play Thursday, isn't it, against Brentford? Glenn. Yep. Now, looking at the table now, what is that? 39 points for Brentford. If they manage to pull off a shock win there, you're heading into. We might get into the Champions League territory there. I mean, that's a good spot.
You're safe.
Yeah, you're safe. Yeah, actually, that's true. Yeah, you'll be past the 40-point mark. But that is a fantastic season already for you, regardless of what happens now, isn't it?
Yeah, but you got to keep it going,
Oh yeah, for sure.
Right? And I completely agree. I'm definitely not expecting Champions League or anything. I mean, top 10 would be magnificent. But yeah, you want to keep the momentum, right? Because success in the league, we've seen it with Leeds, right? They hit a really rich vein of form and started flying, and teams all over the table. Man United are another team that have just hit a really rich vein of form under Carrick, unbeaten in 4 wins in a row. Sensational stuff for them. So if you it's a habit, isn't it? You keep winning, and you start to slide. So I'm really hoping, you can't expect anything from Arsenal. I'm glad it's at the G-Tech. It's always quite dull when we have to go to the Emirates and lose every year. So I'm really excited it's the G-Tech. Obviously, we've beaten them at home before, our first game back in the Premier League in 2021. It's going to be great. And what you're going to get is you're going to get Brentford supporters cheering on Brentford, plus the supporters of the other 19 clubs who aren't Arsenal in the league as well, right? So it's going to be quite a fun game. And I think pressure's on Arsenal. I think Arteta knows it's going to be a really tough game. It's going to be a great watch. If we don't concede early and if we nick a goal at some point, I wouldn't be surprised if we get something positive. I really, really wouldn't, the way we're playing. But yeah, I mean, what a season, right, Maka? Yeah, and as you said, if we win and you guys don't pick up a win at Sunderland, we will overtake you, which would be pretty crazy, and then we'd be in 6th place. So that's pretty impressive.
Chelsea in fifth there, but just now looking at the table, how sickening dropping those 2 points might have been today, because you would have been right in there chasing Manchester City for second place then at that point. But that you're still a little bit further behind from there, but still a healthy position for Chelsea to be in, really, given the managerial change.
For sure. And I think I mentioned it earlier, we have had quite fortuitous fixtures during this run, but based on where we were at, we needed that string a few wins together. But yeah, we have some momentum, even though we tried to give it away. And we should get points at Burnley Burnley next week, or when is it? Yeah, the week after, because of FA Cup. No, it is 21st is next fixture. I think we could catch City. I think Arsenal are too far away, obviously. But if City continue to play like kind of they have, and like they started against you, there's every chance that they'll drop. I think Villa doesn't have the squad necessarily to keep up with the volume of games that they've had, and that's kind of shown through. But yeah, well, I think we're in a good spot. Obviously, we'd like to be 2 points better, but there's a world in which we are. I think we finished third. I think we'll finish ahead of Man United. And it depends what Liverpool does as well, and Brentford. We'll see.
What Liverpool will do is drive me into an insane asylum. Here's the bottom of the table. As we say, like, Spurs are perilously close to being in that race there, making it a 3 from 5. Leeds, although they're close there in terms of points, they're pulling themselves away. I mean, we maybe earlier on the season thought Leeds would be with Burnley and Wolves going down, but I don't think that's as cut and dried as it was back then. Wolves definitely going down. I think that's beyond.
Yeah. Well, Tottenham are playing Arsenal as well in their next game. So if anyone else gets points around them, right? Forest are playing Wolves. So in theory, Forest can potentially pick up points.
Yeah.
They could go level with Tottenham on points. And then West Ham have got Bournemouth. Not the easiest of game for them, but they're in good form. Like, it's starting to not look great for Tottenham, Frank.
I mean, what?
There was a question that came in, like, who would he get replaced by? It's a very good question, right? I think we discussed someone firm like Nigel Pearson, but yeah, I mean, you certainly wouldn't bring Ange back, or you wouldn't bring Ange back. You wouldn't bring in Ruben Amorim for sure, and I'm not sure Maresca would take that.
Big Sam would, and he'd be paid in wine. Wine and beer. Just a quick question there. Is Kevin Schad available tomorrow, Glenn?
No, he's not, for his silly red card. No.
And then just on that final thing on the table, if Burnley, England's brave Scotty Parker, I don't think they're going to do anything special to get themselves out of that either. So it's really that top place that Spurs could get sucked into. Now, we kind of talked about the managers as we were going along. So let's just look ahead to the next set of games that are happening tomorrow. City and Fulham, that should be a City win, really, shouldn't it?
Yeah.
Villa, Brighton's a tough one to call, because Brighton can turn it on when they want to turn it on. Liverpool, Sunderland, I've literally no clue how that game will go as a Liverpool
That could
fan.
be 1-0 Sunderland, 3-3, 3-0 Liverpool. It's a hard place to go.
But in the heel of the reel, would you give your team a chance again against Arsenal? Like, do you think Keith Andrews is clever enough, because he has shown so many times that he can find solutions to the on-pitch tactical problems that he's been faced with? Do you think he is one of the managers who's going, like, was it Lima Senior, Jay, who figured out that if you put 3 players on the top of your box on Arsenal corners and then have them sprint as soon as the corner's taken, Arsenal start to get discombobulated? That was him, wasn't it?
That was Maresca. So we did that first game. And that was like we only did it once or twice, but then Rossini did it pretty much every time.
Yeah. I mean, that seems, because that's something I thought about, because that's something I used to do when I coached with teams, albeit youth teams and teenagers, was that if a team has a routine for corners, starts sending players up as soon as they kick the ball because they're going to go, oh crap, we're 3v2 now or 4v1, like we're in trouble. But you know, that's what I like about Keith Andrews, Glenn. Do you think he's got a plan that you haven't thought of, that we haven't looked at, that when Arsenal come and do their 20 men on top of the goalkeeper thing, he's going to have a solution to deal with that?
Yeah, well, we didn't have a solution for Botman, who knocked in a header on the weekend. So I'm not too sure if we're going to stop Gabriel from a running, diving, clattering header. Tactically, yes, right, Vacker. I think tactically less. Yeah, we're gonna have ideas and some solutions. I think this will just be a really good test of Arsenal's credentials. Right, there's no pressure on us. Like, we will take this as a game we want to win, but if Arsenal can come out and blow us away and win maybe 2-0, 3-1, whatever, they can just dispatch us once again. That just really, really kind of, you know, reinforces their title credentials.
Yeah.
If they get stuck in the mud, if it's a draw, if we nick a win, Man City beat Fulham, Man City are still going to play Arsenal. That could be the 6-point swing there and then, right? And suddenly it's choking season for Arsenal. It blows my mind because it feels like City haven't won more than twice in about 2 months.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Arsenal, they've had some disappointment. I'm sure they've been winning more frequently. I'm shocked that the gap is only what it is right now. But
man as well, the City team that started against Liverpool, like, not a strong side, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Like, certainly not the Pep teams of old.
Yeah, absolutely. And Henderson should be fit. We've got options, right? So maybe he's going to play 55 minutes instead of 70 or 80 or 90 if he had to. But yeah, I'm excited. I think this is a game that could really, really turn the tide in the title race. I think Man City turning it around on Sunday did that, and I think us tripping up Arsenal could genuinely switch the momentum of the entire Premier League, which is really exciting. And hey, it would only do anything. All it would do would boost our hopes of a strong push for Europe. Like, it's gonna be a great game. I think it's the game of the round, in my opinion.
We need to get a result because they're playing against Wolves next.
My only prediction for that game is that I have a funny feeling Keith Andrews is going to use that long ball a lot against Arsenal.
And Arsenal, they'll be prepared for that, right, Mark? And vice versa. Arteta is a meticulous planner, and you would just think with.
You would think so with a head made of Lego, to be fair.
You would think Gabriel and Saliba would be pretty happy to deal with that. But anything we can do to put them under a bit of pressure, right, and frustrate them, I just hope we start with an attacking lineup and we make attacking subs. What I loved, Macca, about the Newcastle game is Keith Andrews made attacking subs. We were defending a lead and then we were drawing, and he's bringing on Damsgaard and Donovan, right? That is not what he was doing at the start of the season when he was nervous about his stature. You've seen him grow in confidence the same way the team has, right? It's a really kind of intimate relationship there. So it's been great. This has been beyond our wildest dreams at the minute as a Brentford fan, and let's just keep it going. Let's have a say in the title race. That's quite exciting. You can make a real difference. That's great.
His confidence grown in proportion to his hair. So let's give Bob Clips one more question there.
Yeah, he's good. He's not for sale. So I'm not too sure how much he could. I mean, right now I'd say he's at least a 30 million fullback. I mean, the way he's performed this year, when you think how crazy the market is, 25, okay, maybe call it 20, 25 maybe. But yeah, he's great. And you should watch the Arsenal game. He's positive. He's got this insane long throw. He makes all these driving runs. He's been a huge asset for us. He's been a real season-defining player, which you can honestly, Macca, say for pretty much every one of the 11 players that plays each season, which is why we're in 7th place, because not many clubs can say that this season.
Transfer Market says he's worth 27.
Oh, what did I say? 30. Look at that.
30. It's a pretty good guess.
That is not bad at all. I'll take that.
Yeah, just Jay, do you want to field this one at all just before we get onto the Tonali picks for tomorrow? Where will Eddie Howe? I think he stays at Newcastle. I don't think it
doesn't seem like he's under a ton of pressure. Like, it seems like I didn't think he was under pressure until he said that he was under pressure and put himself under pressure. And it seems to be the case that, or at least my perception, not being involved in Newcastle fan forums and whatnot, is that Saudis are kind of like taking a bit of less of an interest in the Newcastle project, and thus they're doing fine. And they probably need a bit of a reset, let's be honest. Like some of the guys are older, they've got Vissa and Voldemade that are betting in. As long as there's rumored that they're going to be moving Tonali, right, to potentially Arsenal or someone in the summer, we'll see.
Ladbrokes.
Yeah, if they're going to do that, then I would suggest that they're not looking to fulfill the project that they set out to fulfill, and therefore the pressure on him is probably not huge. But yeah, who knows? I think he's a good manager, but like I'm always surprised when Newcastle are in the league. To be honest, like they were miles below Sunderland like a few months ago. They were talking about it, and now they're above Sunderland. Part of that's because Sunderland dropped, given the absentees they had at the AFCON. But yeah, I think Newcastle's right where we expected them to be. So I think he's under pressure.
Tonali is going to be a Paddy Power or Ladbrokes. That's where he's going to be. But speaking of him, Tonali's picks from tomorrow's games, boys. Do you have any? Oh, my Tonali pick is Brentford.
Yeah, Sunderland, Brentford, Wolves. There's a couple of fun ones. This is Fulham. This is full of potential Tonali's picks. I love this. There's loads and loads. I mean, Palace are wretchedly out of form. Well, they beat, but beyond the Brighton win, they're out of form too.
Brighton
I think we're spoiled for choice.
Them and Villa are both out of form.
Yeah.
So Brighton. I think. What do you think, Joe? I think Brentford will do Brentford for Macca. I'm going to say Sunderland. What do you reckon, Jamie?
I mean, I'm going to say Fulham. I think so. I'm not stepping on your bets, but I don't want Fulham to win. I want it to be interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe they can both lose.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. Nothing changes.
But yeah, maybe they put that ref in charge and they can both lose. The one from the City Liverpool game. We'll see how that works. That's what we're all about here. We're all about the Tonali's picks. The whole show is leading up to that one moment. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thank you for everybody who commented. Thank you to Mr. Bob Clips for joining us for the first time. And Nord for all the questions that we couldn't always get to. But that's just the nature of broadcasting and podcasting. But if you want to find out more about all of this nonsense, follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, X, formerly known as Twitter, Blue Sky, Mastodon, and Uri Geller's Psychic Classes 2027. He's ahead of the game, that lad. In the power of your mind. I'm off to take some more drugs for the ribs. Gentlemen, enjoy the weekend. I don't know what FA Cup games your teams are involved in because it's not the Premier League and it doesn't exist as far as our programming is concerned. All I know is that I'm in work for Liverpool's game, so it doesn't really matter to me. But we will hopefully see everybody next week. Have a good one. If you're in the northeast, it's going to snow again apparently in the weekend, so get those snow blowers, carburetors fixed. And if we all do it, the snow will pass us by because that's how it works, especially if you spend the money on it. Peace out, everybody. Here's some funky music. Have a good one and enjoy the weekend.
Cheers, Macca. Thanks, Jerry.